From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. We're going to take a very particular look today at, don't turn your dial, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift. No, wait, it's okay. I know there's too much, but I want to take a particular angle from a social anarchist perspective. The phenomenon of Taylor Swift. We're just coming off the Grammy Awards. We're coming up on the Super Bowl here where she's probably going to be there and her boyfriend is going to be playing. And we're in this really kind of a defining moment. We're at this pivot point. I don't know how to describe this exactly, but I want to explore it. I want to think out loud about how the hell we got here and what it means from a social anarchist perspective, from an anti-capitalist perspective. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about capitalism. It's all about money. It's all about branding. This moment we're in. And it's sick and it's weird. And you and I need to just talk about this for a minute. First of all, did you see the Grammys? You and I talked about how much I hate arts awards. The very idea that artists, musicians, filmmakers would compete against each other for awards is the height of insanity to me. You just don't do that. But I do watch the Grammys every year because they put on a great show. It's always a really good and interesting show. The performances are fantastic. So it was great, and I enjoyed it. And there were a couple of moments, especially the performance by Tracy Chapman of Fast Car was just I just cried. I just sat there and watched and cried. It was the most beautiful thing. Tracy Chapman is a beautiful artist. The song itself is just a miracle. It's a wonder. And then, of course, it came back into prominence because Luke Combs, the country singer, recorded a cover version, and it became very popular. And so he's on stage singing with her. They're kind of taking turns. He'll take a verse, she takes a verse, then they sing together. And the reverence with which he was looking at her, he was just absolutely, you want somebody to look at you like that. That's when you know that somebody loves you. He was just in awe of her. It was unmistakable. His respect for her and his reverence for her. And what a great artist. It was so beautiful. People accuse me of being kind of ornery and complaining about things. And I mentioned this when we talked about the Oscars, how much I can't stand, arts awards, and there's so much garbage out there. Well, and I mentioned this in passing, that it's why I get so annoyed at the garbage, because I know how much beauty is out there that gets overshadowed. So it was just wonderful to see Tracy Chapman, just an artist of depth and just such integrity. It's just so worthwhile for the culture, so important. I just fell in love with Tracy Chapman when I first discovered her back in the 80s. So that was a moment. That was a great moment. There was another great moment. I also just tears flowing. Oh my God. I was blubbering through Joni Mitchell's performance of Both Sides Now. Again, the very height of artistry, of songwriting, of performance. And the memories flooding back of first discovering Joni Mitchell and hearing that miracle of a voice. And Both Sides Now, one of the great American songs ever written, ever performed. So, yeah, I do get ornery, and I do get really impatient with the junk food equivalent of music and film and all of that. Just all the dumb little pop stuff. Yeah, I do get pretty ornery. But it's because there's so much beauty that can be had. And from a post-capitalist perspective, that's where I want to get to. That's the world I want. In the world I want, there's no such thing as a Taylor Swift. There's no need for one, because money and branding aren't making all the rules. And in the world I want, as you know, if you go out at all, every town, every city has their own music scene, and you can find a half a dozen artists in your town today who are every bit as talented as the top stars of the record labels. They just haven't been discovered, or they haven't had the right opportunities to be marketed. But there's such beauty in the world right outside your door, right in your neighborhood, that to fill stadiums with a big brand like Taylor Swift would just be something that doesn't need to happen. Now, let's be clear. I'm not judging Taylor Swift as a person. I don't know. She's probably fine. I don't know. I'm just talking about the fact of her. The fact of Taylor Swift is impossible in a post-capitalist world. She's only possible in a world where capitalism and branding and profit are at the center. That's something else that was so apparent in the Grammys, was this huge divide between authenticity, integrity, and the noise, and the branding and I swear to God, it's not because I'm old. I'm going to defend myself completely here. My whole life as a kid, I looked for music outside of my own little realm. I went back and discovered my parents' music and, the big band stuff, and even went back to classical music. You and I have talked about this before. And as I've gotten older, I'm always looking for new music that I like, and I often find it. So it has absolutely nothing to do with age, I promise you. It's got everything to do with this gap between authenticity and branding. And I really have just very little patience at all for this branding. Again, I want to stay true to our perspective here. We're talking about the current moment through the lens of a post-capitalist sensibility here. Here's a great example. Travis Scott, the artist Travis Scott, followed Joni Mitchell on the Grammys. And it showed very clearly this gap. Again, not between old or new, or just the very nature of the music itself. The spectrum of the music has become so wide. I mean, there's always been a spectrum, right? There's classical and bluegrass and rap and hip hop and rock and roll and pop and, whatever sort of genre. It's a pretty wide range, right? It's a pretty wide range from Beethoven to name the contemporary artist. But at least it all had something in common. There was music happening. And the basic elements of music are there, right? There's pitch and there's tempo, and melody and harmony and chords and chord progressions. And I mean, there are certain things that make it music. You have to define music, sure, you can have the John Cage philosophy, and you can take a saw to the piano and call that music. And yeah, that's great. I love that kind of sort of conceptual art, performance art kind of philosophies. I'm totally into it. I love it. But let's call it what it is. And here's an issue that I have. The issue that I have is that when the music gets pushed aside for the other elements such as dance. Dance is a beautiful thing. Is it music? No. It interplays with music, but it's not music in and of itself. So all the other attending elements, they're the costumes, the sets, the visuals that are projected up on the wall, the pyrotechnics. And I'm thinking now about the Travis Scott performance specifically. Obviously they're using auto-tune, they're using electronics, they're using lighting effects, theatrical lighting effects, smoke effects. And then, not Travis Scott in particular, but generally speaking, in contemporary music, we see the use of sex as part of the presentation. It becomes central sometimes. So here's my issue. All of these things are fine, and they're interesting, and they're fun, and they're entertaining, and they're art forms in and of themselves. And when they all come together, they're creating something wonderful. I got no complaints. But I do have one standard I think we ought to be aware of. It seems to me we've reached a moment, at least in many of the performances, and I'm using the Travis Scott performance as an example, when all of these things are no longer in service to the music, but just the opposite. The music is in service to the other elements. They're taking the center of attention to the point where the music has almost become superfluous. It's unneeded. So my little rule that I'm suggesting here is when music becomes incidental to the overall experience, or even superfluous to this artistic presentation, when the music takes a back seat and it's only kind of serving, or it's only extraneous to the whole thing, then it's not music anymore. It's something else. It can be great art even. It can be fine. You can enjoy it. No complaints. But it's not music anymore. And I'm not sure why it's being celebrated at the Grammy Awards, which is a celebration of recorded music. It's fine, but call it something else and give it its own show. The Travis Scott thing, I don't know if you saw it. It's the one where he ended throwing folding chairs. All right, again, I love performance art. I think even when I don't understand it, when I don't get it, it's like, okay, the artist is after something here. I'm all for it. I'm 100% for it. But we've reached a point where the music is in service to the other elements. I'm the last person you'd call a prude. I like sex as much as the next person, and I love to see it, and I love sexy things. And okay, but it's been clear for quite a while that many artists seem to have put the sex at number one, and the music is only there to sort of serve the purpose of the sex. So again, all well and good, but call it what it is and give it its own show. And all of this, I suppose, could happen in a post-capitalist world, but I don't think it would be as common. And now let's really get into the whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and the Super Bowl and the Grammys. And we are just right in a time of year, a particular week in the year, where capitalism is just belching all over us. It's just all about branding. Oh, you know what can help us transition into this was, I got one more thought about the Travis, what's his name? Travis Scott. Yeah, I get my Travises mixed up here. This will kind of transition us into this. The other big gap, I talked about the beauty of Joni Mitchell and Tracy Chapman, and then compared to the branding, silly synth pop of others. Travis Scott, immediately following his performance, they went to a commercial, which was like basically a music video, but it was a commercial of Travis Scott selling shoes. So there's this complete co-opting of music for commercial gain, which obviously we've seen for a long time, but it's taken on a new and really sort of central role. Can you imagine for 1 second, take a million years, try to imagine Tracy Chapman selling sneakers with her music? If we'd come out of her song with Luke Combs, we come out of Fast Car, and we go right into a commercial where she's singing Fast Car for a Maserati commercial. Not in a million years. There's this gap. There's this integrity gap that's just wider than ever. Once you've embraced corporate sponsorship to that degree, you're over with me. It's done. Yeah, I mean, it's been a slow roll, and at a certain point, yeah, you have to have a corporate sponsor in order to put on a tour. And okay, none of these things have been happy advancements, but at least they happen slowly, and I can sort of understand what's the economics, and but we just have reached a point of no return. We got to get past this. We have to get past capitalism. Taylor Swift used her first award. She got Pop Album of the Year, and then later she got Album of the Year. But she first won for Pop Album, and she goes up and she uses that opportunity to announce her next album, the date it'll be dropped, and did she give the title as well? But it was so incredibly tacky. But this is what she does. She's a brand. She's all about the brand. Without capitalism, a Taylor Swift would not be possible. I'm not criticizing her necessarily as an artist. I'm criticizing the fact of her, the phenomenon that's created by capitalism, by money, by profit. Because by any objective standard, and this is just not my opinion, this is any objective standard, she's just a mediocre singer. She's not Adele. She's not Celine Dion. She's not Whitney Houston. She can't really sing. I mean, she's fine. She's fine. And in a post-capitalist world, she could still go out and have fans and make a nice artistic life for herself. She's fine. But by any objective standard, she doesn't have a great voice. You could find 20 people in your neighborhood who can sing better than Taylor Swift. She can't dance compared to Michael Jackson, compared to, Jennifer Lopez, compared to James Brown, And she knows this. In fact, she even does a song that's kind of cute about her kind of dancing awkwardly. It's sweet. Again, it's fine, but by any objective standard, she's not a great dancer. Again, you could find 20 people in your neighborhood who can dance better than Taylor Swift. She's not a musician, and she's not an instrumentalist. She doesn't play her guitar. I mean, yeah, she hacks at it. She strums chords. But she doesn't play guitar like Prince or like Eric Clapton. She doesn't interpret a song like Bonnie Raitt. She's just, by every objective standard, she's just the absolute definition of mediocrity. But, she can pack a lot of words into the song she writes, and she can put together a pretty good hook. That's something that pop songs need. Yeah, she can put together a hook. I tell you, I forced myself a couple weeks ago to sit down and watch the Eras Tour movie. And I also forced myself to really, really spend quite a lot of time listening to her music. And it's fine as pop music goes. That's, enjoy it, have fun. But she only exists in a world where the phenomenon of her, where the branding of her takes over. Again, the music, as I was saying earlier, the music takes a secondary position. The music is only in service of the branding, of the personality. And she's got this sweet kind of teenage, whatever she's got going that people like. As a lyricist, she gets her most praise, I think, and they're even teaching a course at Harvard about her. She gets the most legitimate praise from actual legitimate critics for her songwriting, for her lyrics. And like I said before, she knows how to write a good hook musically. I'm sure her producers have a lot to do with that as well. But she packs a lot of words. And okay, again, all fine. And in a post-capitalist world, she probably have a lot of fans and she could have a good time as a full-time performer. Great. But she could never be the phenomenon she is. In other words, she's not as big as she is because of the talent. She's not the best singer. She's not even the best singer in your neighborhood. She's not the best dancer even in your neighborhood. She's a pretty catchy songwriter as far as the lyrics go. But what are the lyrics about? Again, I took a lot of time. Went back. And as we all know, well, it's about falling in love, and it's about breaking up, and then it's about falling in love, and then it's about breaking up. And then once in a while, she'll veer off that a little while. She had this kind of nice song about her grandmother, and that was kind of sweet, a song about grieving for her grandmother. At least it was something a little different. And then when people point out the fact that her lyrics are kind of vapid, even though they're clever, and they're put together kind of intricately, and again, an awful lot of syllables. She packs in more syllables than Bob Dylan, But in the end, what are the songs about? Well, they're mostly about kind of nothing. She's stuck. She started out as a teenager, and how old is she now? 33 or 4, and still pretty much there. The subject matter of the songs are really pretty shallow. And then when critics point this out, then she writes a song like Shake It Off, which is very catchy and very, empowering, and haters gonna hate. And so she defends herself from the criticism by writing a catchy song. Okay, I get it. She has every right to do exactly what she does. And people have every right to love what she does. But the power that she holds, the influence that she has, the hundreds of millions of dollars that she makes, it's all about the brand, which is only possible in a capitalist world. The Urban Dictionary calls Taylor Swift the goddess of basicness, which is exactly right, which is exactly the point. And her relationship with Travis Kelce, again, two of my fellow human beings on this earth. I wish them all the happiness in the world. I'm not talking about those two individual human beings. I'm talking about the fact of them. I'm talking about the totemistic, iconic idols that they've become. That is what's manufactured. That is wholly created by the money world, by capitalism. So this moment we're in right now is a very strange and I think a very damaging moment. A very easy analogy, but I think completely apt, is junk food versus nutrition. This is not original. You've heard this 1,000 times, but it's just so spot on. Hostess cupcakes are delicious. They're fun to eat. They taste great. They're spongy. They're chocolatey. They're creamy in the middle. Who doesn't love a Hostess cupcake? But you can't live on it. You can't hold it up as the greatest food of all time. If you try to live on it, you're going to die. It's going to kill you. I love to enjoy a good Hostess cupcake every once in a while. Who doesn't? But it's garbage. And we're coming up on the Super Bowl. I've told you before, I love football. I think the game itself is kind of beautiful. Athletics generally have been part of human culture since we first crawled out of the swamp. The sport itself, the games themselves, really, there's a lot to be said. Everything surrounding football is gross and weird because of capitalism. The money that's spent, the dangerous aspects of the game, which if there wasn't so much money on the line, would have been dealt with better. The fetishism of the fans and the spectacle, the obsession with personalities, the obsession with money, with salaries, all the millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars going to these athletes, while teachers are paying for their own school supplies. I mean, there's so much about sports and the NFL in particular that are just sick and awful and horrible. But it's not because of the game. It's because of the central role of money and profit. We have to get into a post-capitalist world. So now we're coming up on the Super Bowl, and if Taylor Swift is the epitome of basicness, the goddess of basicness, as the Urban Dictionary calls her, what is Travis Kelce? I mean, he's got this podcast with his brother, and they can be in the Urban Dictionary as well. Talk about the basic bros. These guys are nothing if they're not basic bros. You can't get more basic than Travis Kelce. Again, he's a fellow human being walking this earth with me, and I wish him nothing but the best as my fellow human being. But the product, the brand of Travis Kelce, which only exists in a capitalist world, is vapid and pointless. He's a Hostess cupcake. And if you want to indulge every once in a while, that's fine. But when it defines the culture, when it dominates the culture, when all the celebrity and all the money and all the gambling and all the attending elements of the Super Bowl become more important than the game itself. You know how many people are going to go to Super Bowl parties and not watch the game, right? They're just going to be totally caught up in the spectacle, in the Travis and Taylor story, in the commercials, in everything else. It's just as I was saying earlier, when the music takes a secondary position, a subservient position to all of the other elements, it's really not music anymore. When music is secondary to the lights and the costumes and the pyrotechnics and the sex and the dancing and everything else, call it something else. It ain't music. When the game itself takes a secondary, subservient position to all the attending crap, then I don't know what it is, but it's not football, it's not sports, it's not athletics, it's something else. And that something else is only possible in a world where profit, where branding are the reason we're all here. So, with nothing but love for my fellow human beings, Taylor and Travis, I say the phenomenon that they have become and the culture that they represent, that they epitomize, is sick. The fact of Travis and Taylor is only possible under capitalism. The body can't survive on Hostess cupcakes. The culture cannot survive on Taylor Swift and Super Bowl Sunday. And I guarantee you, the post-capitalist world will be 1,000 times more satisfying and enriching. Whatever joy you get from the Super Bowl or from the Eras Tour, which I'm not denying, it does bring joy. But when we don't need that, and in a post-capitalist world, when we're connecting face-to-face with the art and beauty and culture right in your own neighborhood, you'll look back on this world and you'll say to yourself, what was I thinking? I had no idea how beautiful it could be. To really enjoy and participate in the culture without it being force-fed by the powers of money and corporate branding. I mean, a direct connection, person to person, heart to heart, with the culture. So, yeah, Taylor Swift, the person, I got nothing but love for you. I wish you all the best. Taylor Swift, the phenomenon, the idol, a sign of the apocalypse. We just can't have this anymore. Can't. Just can't. It's got to go. All right, there it is. Go to the website for all the different podcasts in the podcast family. That's charlesburcell.com. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. And thanks to Peter Donalds, who wrote and performed the theme music. Okay, is that it? That's it. I'm Charles Burcell. This is The Log. Talk to you next week. See ya.